Welcome to the Business Focus podcast. Before we start, can we ask one thing? 74% of you that watch this channel frequently do not subscribe. If you've enjoyed our videos, please could you do me a favor and hit the subscribe button? It helps this channel more than you know, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the learning gets. Welcome to the Business Focus podcast. Jonathan Herbst is the host of the Business Focus podcast. He is a strategic advisor, coach, and mentor to entrepreneurial business owners, CEOs, and senior executives. In this podcast, he chats with entrepreneurs, founders, and CEOs of scaling companies. It centers around their entrepreneurial journey so far and their aspirations for their companies.
Hi, it's Jonathan Herbst. Welcome to the podcast. Today, it's my great pleasure to interview Julian Fayad. I hope I pronounced that right, Julian. Who's founder and CEO of LoanOptions.ai. Welcome, Julian.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
No, it's my pleasure. So why don't we just jump straight into it? What is LoanOptions.ai and what do you do? How long have you been doing it?
Yeah, so I started the business 3 years, but really I've been working on this concept since 2017. And, AI was not really spoken about back then. Even in 2020, it wasn't really, but especially in 2017, it was, a very niche thing in small circles. But LoanOptions.ai is Australia's first AI-powered loan marketplace. And so what we've actually built is a tool and a platform for customers to go online and get transparent loan options from over 75 banks and lenders in seconds. They can apply online with one application form, so they don't have to go to all the separate lenders to apply. And our application form does only soft checks on the client, so there won't be any impact to their credit score. So we're really just democratizing people's access to really good information about which finance offers are relevant to their specific credit circumstances. So for example, how the engine works is the more information the client provides, the more accurate the results get, because it's matching against, all of the lender's credit policy. And then there's another layer, which is the AI, that's doing the probability of approval with each lender. So it's recommending based on the likelihood that they're going to get approved.
And look at the website, it's multiple types of loans.
Yeah, that's right. So we don't do home loans. We do everything else though. We actually have partner businesses. And I'll explain how the model works, because that's why we don't do home loans. We do everything except for property. So cars, equipment, trucks, boats, motorcycles, caravans, unsecured personal loans. And we've more recently, especially with the strain on small businesses, we're doing a lot of business lending. So that could include lines of credit, cash flow loans, invoice and debtor finance, trade finance, or the whole lot, right? So basically, if they want funding for anything other than a property, they come to us. If they want funding for a property, they still come to us, but we'll connect them with an expert in that field. Like, we're highly specialized in what we do, and they are usually highly specialized in what they do. What we've done is we've actually made our technology available to be embedded through a unique solution that we've built on their own website, and white label, change the colors so that it suits their branding, their context, their wording, and their messaging to their clients. And we've also built a whole bunch of tools for them so they can obviously assist them in diversifying their businesses as well.
And, given that you launched in 2020, you're growing significantly, just looking at the number of the team on the website.
Yeah. I mean, we've been very, very lucky. Obviously, there's a lot of great team members that have been working very hard, so it's not all luck. But I think like product market fit, I was saying this earlier in a conversation, our industry, and just getting a quote for finance, possibly the least transparent industry. And I'm saying this objectively. Some industries that, get a bad rap, let's say the construction industry, you get like, at least with, a tradie or someone in construction, you get a quote and you get to decide if you want to proceed or not, right? Like, if you walk into a dealership and say, can I get a quote on finance? You watch them dance around the question like no tomorrow. And they will dance around the question. And that's just what they do. That's what the industry has kind of taught them to do. That's the way the industry has been set up. So obviously myself, I thought that was really, really wrong. I was like, how can you expect somebody to go through the whole application process before they know how much it's going to cost them and if they're eligible? So I believe now we've solved that with LoanOptions.ai, and so that's led us to grow, from, small, tiny little office in Parramatta when we first started that barely fit 4 people. If we wanted to walk past another seat, we had to like squeeze in between the wall to, I guess like, our office now, like 460 square meters and 50 plus staff. So it's, lots of hard work, but also, good timing and the right product market fit.
There's this concept that Jim Collins talks about, return on luck. And, it's a really interesting concept, but it goes with that, the idea of Steve Jobs said that it's amazing how an overnight success takes so long. If you think about it, you've been working on it since 2017.
Yeah, and look, that to further to that point, certainly hasn't been an overnight success. It's been a roller coaster for sure. And what led me to starting my own business and starting Loan Options is actually off the back of, the worst possible luck you could imagine. And I basically worked really hard to build another business, and that I was a really minor shareholder in. And and then things don't always work out, and kind of basically had to start again. So I basically lost life-changing money in that event. But it doesn't always work out your way, but here I am. So yeah, it's definitely overnight success. I love that saying from Steve Jobs. So yeah.
So, who is your core customer, your best customer?
Yeah, look, I think we deal with a very broad, diverse customer set. I would say I'm going to categorize it into two. There's obviously small to medium business, the tradie looking to buy a ute or, buy an excavator to help them generate revenue. Lots of people in hospitality, in the beauty industry. And so there's the SME client. And then we have the consumers who are looking for a fair deal. And the SMEs want things to be easy and they want competitive offer, but they're very time poor, and usually their purchases are time sensitive. This excavator needs to be used for a job that starts next week. And, if they don't, they have to rent it and it's going to be twice the price or, whatever it is. And they just want you to make it easy. And then the consumer wants to be, handheld. I would say like 25 to 44 is the people that kind of grew up with technology, or at least quite familiar with technology. That's really our client. We are seeing that younger generation from 18 to 25 emerge and start using this, but certainly the core group of our clients across SME and consumer is 25 to 44 years of age. It's a large demographic. But those people really resonate with, because by the time you're 25, you've probably had an experience with a banking product or a lending product, and most times it's going to be less than ideal. And if you're an SME, you probably don't get much value from your bank. So dealing with a broker that can get you an excavator and then the next day get you unsecured loan for some cash flow, and then set up a debtor finance facility, and do it all for you with one phone call. Yeah. They're seeing a lot of value in that.
Absolutely. So you started off at a great time, just before the pandemic.
Just after.
Sorry?
Just after.
Just after. Oh, okay.
Yeah, just after the first one, the first round of lockdowns. So the pandemic was actually the cause of me starting my business, because, as I said, the previous owners, their core business was not finance, and so it was a ASX listed business, and they decided they were going to hibernate the business, and so I lost all the goodwill in my shares, etc. So I had to start again. But yeah, so just after, but went through that period where it was, still restrictions in place, still, and everybody told me I was crazy. So
well, and that's what the crazy ones are the ones that change the world. So what did you implement in the business because of the pandemic that has stayed with the business going forward?
Yeah, look, I think my take there is we really looked after our team. We made them feel like they had stability in our business. We were responsible through that period, not taking too many risks, and we built really, really solid partnerships at the genesis of the business. I've been doing this for 12 years altogether, asset finance, so I have a network, but we built really strong partnerships at the early parts of the business, which are still going really strong. And we set up the foundations in terms of business processes, business practice, SLAs, process maps. I spent a lot of time building all of that out. We've put a really big emphasis on speed and service in our business. Those two things, if you do them really well, every now and again, you might make a mistake or you do this wrong or you do that wrong, but people value speed and service in terms of what we do, probably above all else. And so we really put an emphasis on all of that that I just mentioned, and that's kind of put us in good stead. The first year we grew, the second year we 100%, and then we're growing at 100%, but last year we grew at 300% year on year. So that was our most explosive year. But it's because we laid the foundations, early on in the business.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So what's the future look like, and what do you see as your challenges going forward?
Yeah, look, we spent a bit of time doing, risk analysis in our business. We do this thing we call it war games, but it's basically just predicting every possible worst case scenario that could possibly happen across all of our business, and how would we deal with that, and what's our mitigating strategies, to protect us against certain things. And really, an economic crisis would be difficult for us to deal with, because a lot of the time we're finance is a reactive product. There are some elements that we could probably pivot to, like being more proactive with business, providing businesses cash flow and things like that. But for the most part, if there's an economic crisis, people aren't really buying cars. They're not really buying additional equipment. They're bunkering down and they're cutting their spending. So an economic, I know everyone's feeling the pinch now, but I'm talking about a sort of GFC level event could be, quite difficult for us to manage. That's going to be a challenge I think we're sort of seeing at the moment, but not really, because it kind of, maybe the full effects haven't hit yet, or maybe they won't ever hit, fingers crossed. But, lenders in that period, there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot less funding around. So lenders really tighten their belts on which clients they're prepared to approve. So you really have to work a lot harder to get the same result. Biggest challenges, obviously, so I think it's just managing risk. There's obviously a lot of regulation in our industry. So regulation, is both a risk and potentially brings upside for our business too, given how transparent our model is. If the market moves towards even more transparency and even more, digitization, we're ready for that. That's something that could be really beneficial for us. But at the same time, if they make silly mistakes and it hurts the revenue model or something like that, then we may have to rethink certain aspects of the business as well. So,
what do you think has been your biggest learning since you've been a business owner?
Number one has to be focus on what you can control. Like for the longest time, I was the sort of guy that tried to have influence on, this and that, and talk to this lender and try and get them to do that. And then I was just like, not really getting anywhere. And so now I just focus on what are the things that are in my control, or in, as a business, our control. That's been so empowering, really. It's like a weight has been removed off my shoulders, because now everything else in the market to me now is just noise, and lenders might change their credit policy, which might hurt us, but it's like out of our control. Let's find another solution. Let's focus on what we can control. So that is really powerful. That's been really powerful for me. Other things might include, taking the risk, taking the leap of faith, backing yourself. For me, everything is driven by data in our business. It's all, we have a report for everything. And, it's really useful in helping you make decisions, but also sometimes you got to make a decision before there's any data available. And if you've got a plan, and I'm not saying do impulsive stuff, I'm just saying if you've got a plan, back yourself that you can execute the plan. That's been a great learning for me as well.
Thank you. Yeah, it's fascinating. Data, of course, gives you all power, but that's what we get paid for. Is at times you've actually got to go on your experience. There's an element of gut in there as well. I think that's one of the things that separates entrepreneurs.
Absolutely, and if there is, you can't say, that you're risk averse and say you're an entrepreneur. Like, they're fundamentally, that's an oxymoron. Being an entrepreneur is a huge risk. I could just, go and work for a bank and have a big salary and the rest of it, and probably a much better work-life balance, to be honest, as well. But, I think this is what I was built for, and I enjoy every second of it. I never wake up thinking, oh my God, it's Monday, or I never. And the minute I feel that way, I'll give it up. I'll resign as CEO and give it to someone else. I think I love this business. I love doing in the business. I love the team. We've been very fortunate that we're in this place, so we certainly don't want to squander that opportunity.
Yeah. So tell me, when you think of the word successful, who comes to mind and why?
I'm going to say Elon Musk. That man has achieved such high levels of success in anything that he's been involved in. Really, you go back to the early days of PayPal, and then he buys out Tesla, when no one even thinks electric cars are a thing. Few companies try and make electric cars, and they do them, and they're all lukewarm. And then he builds the most amazing cars that makes people who are like, I'm wearing an F1 shirt, right? He makes car enthusiasts want to buy them because they're fast and they're agile and they're great, and there's all kinds of things that are good about them. Then he does he commercializes space payloads and setting satellites every other week, and re-landing rockets, and boring company tunnels. And I don't know. I work really, really hard. I have no idea how that man fits all of that in. And obviously he's got a good team around him. Usually people like him do. They attract the best people because they are such high achievers. I have to say him. I don't know if anybody who you could argue is more successful than him, regardless of what you think about him personally. I think, it's well known that he's on the spectrum of sorts, and Asperger's or something along those lines. Please don't misquote me there, but I think that's actually one of the reasons why he is so great. It's almost like an unfair advantage he has over people with that. Like, I've never seen anything like it. It's admirable.
Yeah. He bemuses me. It's one way I put it. Yeah. You mentioned the boring company, which is, for those that don't know, it is essentially a tunnel boring company where he's building bypasses underground. The way he promoted that. I don't know if you saw he had this giveaway of flamethrowers.
Yeah, the guy's so eccentric, right? And how can you not respect that? He seems so approachable, given he's the richest man in the world and has arguably the bloke wants to colonize Mars and turn us into a multi-planetary species. Like, there's no one else like that guy. And everyone now we're doing Amazon's doing space travel and Virgin Galactic and all the, but no one's doing that repeatedly, and it seems so replicatable. So if you were a betting man on who's going to put us on Mars, regardless of whether we can colonize it and terraform it and all that kind of stuff, if you were a betting man, you'd be putting your money on that man.
Yeah, I think you're right. So, are you a reader? Are there any books, podcasts that you'd recommend?
Yeah, I love a good book. I'm more of an audiobook guy. You can see me behind. I've got a lot of books there. We have an internal book club, so we promote that as a business. We pay for any books and any learning for any of our staff that wants to upskill and make themselves a better version of themselves. It's a big part of what we do for our staff. But myself personally, I guess like the three most influential books to me, it's one series of books. They're Jocko Willink's books on extreme ownership. So the first one's extreme ownership, second one's dichotomy of leadership, the third one's leadership strategy and tactics. But extreme ownership is about the ultimate level of accountability, and that is about focus on what you can control. And when you ingrain that in the culture of your business, you stop getting people pointing fingers at each other, and everyone says, I could have done that better. So if I give you instructions, Jonathan, and I say, I want you to complete this task, and I walk away and go back to doing my thing, which is what a lot of, employers do, leaders, managers, whatever. And then when the task gets done and I blow up at you and say, it's not, that's not what I asked for or whatever. But like, I need to look at myself. Extreme ownership is the principle that I need to look at myself and go, what could I have done better in that situation? I should have briefed Jonathan better. I should have sat down and taken 5 minutes to really make sure he understands the why behind what I'm asking him to do. That will help, inform him on how, and maybe you should have told him, send me the first draft before you complete it, or send me your halfway point so I can see if you're on the right track. So it's about looking inward. And that is, like I said before, about, focusing on what you can control. That's the highest level of accountability, when everyone's looking at themselves rather than looking at and pointing fingers at everyone else. It's amazing what you can achieve in your business.
And, it's really good advice. A bit of background on Jocko Willink. He was a US Navy SEAL. You know this, Julian, but for the listeners, and he commanded, I think it was SEAL Team 3, which was, a couple of hundred US Navy SEALs in Baghdad during the really bad times of the Iraq War. And quite an extraordinary character, and he's taken that into a significant business advisory business, and
echelon front or whatever it's called. So I mean, look, that's probably like the 3 book series probably had the most impact on me. I do like the Dan Ariely's Predictably Irrational. It's like a sales psychology marketing book, and it just talks about the irrational things that humans do. And that's why, like, when you're looking at your pricing strategy, when you're looking at the way you design and your user interface looks and interacts, like that's been really helpful for me as well. I've read hundreds of books, but anytime anyone asks, if you haven't read those books, you've got to start there. I can recommend lots of others, but start there. I love those books.
Okay, thank you. So, last question. Any last piece of advice or parting words to entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs out there?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's not one you can answer easily. But I would say that I haven't met really, and I'm sure there's some out there, but I haven't met somebody who took the plunge and started their own business and, worked on their vision for what the business was. And I haven't met anybody who's done that and said, I wish I didn't do it. But every entrepreneur I speak to always says, I wish I'd done it sooner. And so the thing is, take the plunge. If you can, start it as a side hustle, get it off the ground, get it generating revenue as fast as you possibly can, to the point where, it can now become something that's not a side hustle, and then quit your job if you have to do it that way. Work on it after hours. When you get home, kiss your wife, kiss your kids, have dinner, do your thing, but spend the next few hours working on your future. So if you need to start it as a side hustle, start it as a side hustle, get it generating revenue, and then quit your job and move full-time, full speed ahead with it. So if you're one of those people if you don't want to be like one of those people that says I should have done it sooner, then do it sooner, pretty much.
Great advice. And, I like your comment about the vision. One of the things I work with new clients on very early on is I have a tool called a 3-year vivid vision, and I get them to go and outline what their vision is, which we then that could be pages, but we then focus that in on a leader's intent for 3 years, and then focus that in on 3 to 5 winning moves to actually take the business forward. And it's the first thing I do with clients, and it is so powerful. And these are clients, they may have teams of 5 to 10, or they may have teams 60 around 100. It's every time I get the founder and CEO to do the vision exercise, it fundamentally changes the way they think about the business.
It's great. It's a great point. Like Jonathan, from my point of view, I'm obsessed with the vision, but I see a lot of business owners that feel like they lost their way, and they're looking at the numbers and the dollars and cents and how can I make this work? And they've taken their eye off the vision, and they're in the weeds, and that's not necessarily a good thing. And that's why I like the dichotomy of leadership, because it kind of talks about having to zoom out and get yourself out of the weeds and not be too close to the front line, because you can't have that vision. But you shouldn't do business, like everything comes, right? Like if you're pursuing your vision and your product or your service is, if you can get it as close as possible to your vision, and assuming you've dreamt up a vision that's good enough, like it's not a really low bar, the money will come. The business model will evolve over time. You'll pivot. You'll have a different strategy. Things that you will try, and some of them will fail and some of them will work. That's all part of it. But the North Star is the vision. That's the direction you're always heading in. And every decision you make in the business, does this get me closer to my North Star, which is, your vision? If it doesn't, it's so easy. Too often people get distracted by the shiny thing, and they get off the train tracks and they go over here and over there. The North Star is the vision. You follow that. Does this get me closer? Yes. If not, can I do without it? And if most times the answer is yes, then do without it and keep pursuing your vision.
Yeah, really, really good advice, Sean. It's one of the reasons my CEO clients hire me, is to actually keep them focused on where they get, and to make them sit back every quarter to actually work on the business. It's so easy to get immersed in the day-to-day minutia, and as you say, lose track of where you're going.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah,
Julian, thank you so much. It's been a fabulous conversation. There's so many great lessons in there for entrepreneurs. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you are hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode, and for that, we want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We hope you enjoyed this new episode, and if you did, please leave us a review on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, or wherever you watch/listen. Please share this episode with others who may be interested in this topic. If you want to be a guest on the podcast, please send an email to admin@scaleupgrowth.co. Put "Be a guest" in the subject line and tell me a little about yourself. If you want to gauge where your business growth potential is and identify where the biggest opportunities in your business lie, or where the key needs that you need to concentrate on right now are, take our assessment where you will receive personalized advice for improvement. It's quick and free. Go to scaleupgrowth.scoreapp.com. If you would like to work with me one-to-one, I love coaching and get the best outcomes that way. Send me an email to jonathan@scaleupgrowth.co and put one-to-one in the heading. Tell me a bit about your business and let's see how we can apply a great strategy for your business. So that's it for this week. Tune in next time for more great learnings from a scaling entrepreneur.